You're definitely doing well from a talent perspective when you lose your all-time leading receiver in receptions and touchdowns, and you're not really fretting about it. You are loaded at wide receiver. That's the situation at North Carolina. We bring in Jeff Greenberg from inside the ACC to help us break it down. Jeff, it's always a good time. Thanks for jumping on board here. Quinshad Davis, we'll give him his parting shot here. Your thoughts about his career at UNC and what he leaves behind.
Well, I think you got to look at Davis in two ways. One, obviously the production, all-time leader in receptions, all-time leader in touchdowns, and there were big names that preceded him before he got to UNC. So obviously the production on the field was there, always consistent, always a leader on the field. But the second part where you have to look at him is he was part of Fedora's first class that really solidified what they've been doing the last year or two and moving the program forward from when they first stepped on campus. And I think if you ask Coach Fedora, if you ask the other coaches, Davis was one of those guys they needed to get in that class to help secure a solid foundation with guys that we'll talk about in a little bit. But Davis was one of those key guys that I think anybody in the on the coaching staff will look back at and go, he was one of the guys that set our foundation.
Jeff, we talk about Ryan Switzer's ability to break a return here and there. Of course, that's how he hit the national stage early in his career as a freshman. Just some remarkable plays that he made in the return game. 55 receptions, almost 700 yards, and 7 touchdowns last year. He and Mack Hollins really ripped it up against Pitt in a pivotal game in the division race. They both hit up the Panthers for over 100 yards. Talk about Mack Hollins and Ryan Switzer and what they bring to the table.
Well, Switzer is known for his punt returning. I still think he's underappreciated for what he does as a wide receiver. People tend to forget that he actually came into North Carolina after playing running back in high school. So he had to learn the wide receiver position, but that has not prevented him from being one of the most productive backs, period. When you look at plays that go over 50 yards, touchdowns, and we're not just talking punt returns, we're talking as a wide receiver. Last year had huge playmaking ability, showed it in big games like you mentioned against Pitt, against Duke. And he's one of those guys that when he touches the ball, he can make things happen. But where you see his development is not just those breakaway long bombs. He had 2 touchdowns in the ACC championship game against Clemson that were hard-nosed, catch and contact touchdowns in the end zone that really show you his versatility. So I'd look for big things this year for Switzer. Not to mention he's been Mitch Trubisky's roommate their entire time at UNC, so there's a connection there that'll be fun to watch. And with Mack Hollins, I mean, he's just like Switzer. He's got that play-breaking ability to hit the home run. He actually led the nation last year in yards per catch, a little over 24 yards per catch. He brings that ability to run by your fastest DB. But I think what you're also going to see, what they showed in the spring game, is Trubisky hit him in a lot of flat patterns, a lot of over the middle. So it's not just a one-trick pony when you look at Hollins either. And between the two of them, you have speed that everybody wants to have because it's speed you can't teach.
Yeah, I can't think of a guy that had in the neighborhood of 30 receptions with this kind of impact. When you talk about Mack Hollins, just under 25 yards per reception. He is going up top for some big plays, had 3 100-yard efforts. Then you also have Bug Howard. You've got Austin Prohl. Bug Howard coming off a 29-catch season with 4 touchdowns, had a big day against South Carolina in the opener with 114 yards. So if you can round out the rest of the position for us.
Yeah, Bug's the 3rd senior. So in Hollins, Switzer, and Bug Howard, you have 3 seniors that have seen a lot of playing time, caught a lot of balls. I think what you're going to see from Bug Howard is he's going to fit into that spot that Quinshad Davis filled the previous years. They're basically the same build, same player, the same guy where you can throw it up as high as you want. They're going to come down with it. Bug's known for making the tough catch, whether it's on the sideline, whether it's over the middle. That's going to be huge for Trubisky this year because he's going to need those guys to help him move the chains and not just hit those home runs. Then you have Austin Prohl coming in. He benefited from getting a lot of playing time last year. He plays in that slot role more like you'll see backing up Switzer, and he had a decent end of the year as well. And then not the question mark, but the wild card this year will be at the tight end spot with Brandon Fritz. He came on strong last year, had 4 touchdowns out of his 16 catches, and he played in high school with Trubisky. So there's going to be a an inherent connection between those two. And he's more in that mold of the Gronkowski, Eric Ebron types, where you got that athletic tight end that's big, but he can run fast and catch. He's going to be a matchup problem for teams. You add that to those first three guys we talk about, and I think Mitch Trubisky's probably going to be smiling more about his weapons than anything.
Yeah, you're in a good place when you recruit a top 50 wide receiver in 2015 in JuJuan Mallette out of North Carolina. And it's not that he's a bust, not that he's not developing. He's just buried on the depth chart right now, and he may get his time, but it's probably not going to be in 2016.
Yeah, he's got all the capability from what the coaches have talked about and what the scouting sites will tell you. His problem is, like you said, right now they're just so loaded. You've got those three seniors starting right then and there. Obviously, health is a big issue with any team. So his opportunity may come more when there's a health issue, maybe when there's an issue if the team gets up and there's time for other backups to get playing time in a blowout situation. But he's ready. He's very athletic, but his time will come because, as you said, this is the year Trubisky's going to enjoy these three guys, but those three guys are seniors, so this is their year to do it.
You mentioned Trubisky smiling from ear to ear. You, as a North Carolina supporter and fan and analyst as well, along with the people that they're down in Tobacco Road, have to be smiling thinking about this unit stretching the field.
They are. I mean, this is exactly how you want it lined up, particularly when you have a quarterback who's going to be starting full-time for the first time. It's good to have experience around him, and he's got that both on the offensive line and then with these weapons at wide receiver that have made plays in many different situations. And actually in terms of Switzer and even Hollins, I think Hollins is going to want to show that he's more diverse than just the streaker. And Switzer's going to want to show again that what he did in the ACC championship game was no fluke. He can make the tough catch in traffic, not just burn you down the field.
Jeff Greenberg from inside the ACC helping us out on North Carolina's very talented wide receiver core. We always appreciate the knowledge, Jeff.
No problem. Thanks, Mark.